So today we're going to be looking at 3 trailers in order to offset more time on this movie and Toy Story 4's teaser trailers. So Detective Pikachu had actually been in talks as early as 2016 and will be distributed through Warner Brothers Pictures. After more than 15 years of childhood dreaming for me and many others, the portable monsters that make millions every year in merchandise and video games are finally hitting the big screen in live action. Now, those amazing promo trailers for Pokemon Go are finally coming to a narrative of the real world in a sprawling urban setting. Based on the more bizarre video game spin-off of the same name, the talking Pikachu is in fact the voice and actor of Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, who is partnered with a failed trainer in his 20s. And Trevor Noah's aborted son, whose last role as a screaming sidekick in the last Jurassic World, is looking to make his first mark in a video game adaptation that doesn't look like rush garbage. The CGI and animation team definitely deserve a pat on the back because the work that they put to bring these Pokemon to life are fantastic, an interesting interpretation that looks to explore how these animals with superpowers would appear in our world. With textured furs and vivid expressions in their eyes, they are less Winnie the Pooh chew toys and more Rocket Raccoon in terms of their authenticity from what was shown off. The trailer doesn't pull back any punches either, as the amazing world shows off what to expect with Pokemon in them, and the simplicity of the plot feels familiar, but is able to take full advantage in scope that will probably highlight an interesting chemistry between the 2 leads, with one voicing an electric mouse with a Sherlock Holmes cap. Now, as exciting and daring as this fresh idea can be, and how promising it is to see Pokemon on the big screen, that will be a fantastic opportunity for fans and those really wanting to know what the big deal is about, especially those who really don't know Pokemon at that level. I can definitely see, though, why some people are a bit mixed or less supportive of their first look on this. The CGI does tend to create a bit of jarring interpretation of Pokemon. Rather than go with a more familiar style of their original designs, they're really pushing down the line of Uncanny Valley, especially for the more humanoid Pokemons like Mr. Mime. Plus, looking at who's directing and co-writing for this, it's Rob Letterman. He directed Shark Tale, but then he directed Monsters vs. Aliens, and then he directed Gulliver's Travels. But then he directed the first Goosebumps movie. So yeah, a big roller coaster of quality from this man. Another thing is that if you really just close your eyes, the voice and attitude really screams Ryan Reynolds' persona. And sure, his post-Deadpool work has been mixed at best. I'm thinking giving another shot at voice work for a major picture feels adamant, and hopefully worth the curse he tends to plague on major productions. Plus, I'm sure the gruff detective persona was totally a Danny DeVito role waiting to happen. I also don't want to personally bring my hopes to the extreme high, but a buddy cop drama is a hard thing to pull off in strides, and I hope the writing and plotting doesn't solely rely on the property's nostalgia. Not to mention that I still have serious PTSD from the last time a movie with a creative spin on this subgenre was attempting. A good film based on a major property is possible if the creative endeavors behind the scenes make a good film first and sell a shitload of toys later. Just take some notes on the Lego movie, please, and the game you're adapting this from. I really want Reynolds to say some of those lines. Well, as excited as I am for Detective Pikachu, the one that I'm obligated to be excited for is Toy Story 4. Yes, the press is having a field day this week with nostalgia and major property releases, and I'm sure Toy Story is no different. Yet I feel like the cynicism for Toy Story 4 is at an all-time low. I'm sure after its announcements a few years back shared plenty of collective groans, including my own, but at this stage this hype is really blinding, and I have to say I'm really getting sick of teasers before a trailer. Not to mention that prior reports of how tear-jerking the movie was for Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, and how many of the people involved continue to emphasize that they're not doing this for the purpose of money. Really, Pixar, explain Cars 1 through 3 and your later sequels and tell me that money is not a single fraction of reasoning behind that. With that being said, the teaser gives us a good look at a familiar sketch by Key and Peele as stuffed animals, and the introduction of the newest character, Forky, who is just a shitty arts and crafts spork that will soon learn what it's like to be a toy by Woody and the rest of the gang. It's a full circle kind of story where Forky proclaims that he's not a toy, almost like the Buzz Lightyear plot from the first film, ha ha ha, only a more self-aware jab at the idea, not to mention that he looks to be the new generation of toys that will probably and hopefully bring a proper continuation into a new trilogy to come. Again, there's not much from what we've seen at this point, and I don't really feel like enjoying the feelings of being blue-balled by Pixar after they steal my money. Wow, what a good week for a trailer on an interesting sci-fi utopian film to release. Behind these two films. Directed by Rupert Wyatt, better known as the director on the second remake on the Planet of the Apes, as well as divisive film The Gambler. It's good to see him try his mark on an original story that has less to do about aliens taking over society for a decade, and more about both sides of that conflict, which includes the totalitarian utopia that is created, and those who attempt to be the watchdogs that know the actual truth. Although it does more telling than showing all of this, I'm actually kind of glad that they're saving any real surprises or actual narrative focus for when the film releases. It is interesting, and I can't wait to actually see it in 2019, because it looks like we might have another Arrival in our hands, or maybe a pretty decent blockbuster with some class.